On the night of May 27, 2018, 20-year-old Spencer Mugford met up with his friend, Sophia McKenna, in the parking lot of the University of Connecticut Avery Point. At the time, Spencer was a student there. Sophia, however, was caught in a toxic and abusive relationship with a man named Austin Cordova, one that had only gotten worse in the months leading up to that fateful night. According to Sophia's mother, Austin had been seeing someone else while still dating Sophia. When she found out, she decided to start dating other guys too. But when Austin discovered this, he was furious. He allegedly went to her apartment, tried to kick down the door, and even threatened to end her life. It was after this terrifying incident that Sophia began spending more time with Spencer. The two had met while working at a local spa, briefly dated, but eventually decided they were better off as friends. A couple of weeks later, Spencer picked up a new job on a charter boat, taking people out on the water for half-day fishing trips. That night in May, Spencer and Sophia met in the parking lot, took a small mastless sailboat from the university campus, and headed toward the New London Ledge Lighthouse, a well-known tourist attraction in Connecticut, infamous for being one of the creepiest buildings in the state. A little after 1 a.m., Sophia used Spencer's phone to upload a video to his Snapchat story. In the footage, Spencer is seen paddling the tiny boat across the water. "Yo, we're out here, in the ocean," he says. Sophia, laughing, points the phone toward the distant shore. That is the land. "We still have to get to there. We're almost there," Spencer reassures her. The two seem to be in good spirits, enjoying their adventure, but that video would be the last known footage of them alive. Around 2 a.m., after finally arriving at the lighthouse, Spencer posted a picture of Sophia standing in front of a "no trespassing" sign, and then silence. Neither of them was ever seen again. The next morning, Austin reached out to Sophia's mother, Michelle. He claimed he was worried because she hadn't responded to him. They had made plans to go shopping that day. That's when Michelle noticed something chilling. She had multiple missed calls from an unknown number between 2:05 and 2:09 a.m. the night before. When she called the number back, Spencer's phone rang. Fear struck her heart. She immediately reported her daughter missing. Later that evening, around 6 p.m., the Coast Guard launched an official search. They found Sophia's car still parked in the Yukon lot, her phone still inside. This explained why she had used Spencer's phone to call her mother the night before. Then, investigators discovered something strange. Spencer's shirt was tied to a boat cleat on the dock of the New London Ledge Lighthouse, a makeshift attempt at securing the sailboat. But there was one problem. The boat was gone. As the Coast Guard scrambled for answers, Austin and his father took matters into their own hands. They launched their own private search, and as they flew over the water, they spotted the Yukon sailboat, overturned, floating near Truman's Beach on the north shore of Long Island, about 13 miles from the lighthouse. Even more bizarre, a series of unidentified fingerprints were found on the sailboat, but they were never analyzed. On May 28th, just one day after their disappearance, the Coast Guard suspended the search due to worsening weather conditions. They vowed to resume if any new leads emerged, but none ever did. Then, on June 8th, 11 days after Sophia and Spencer vanished, a fisherman made a gruesome discovery. Spencer's body was floating in the ocean, miles away from where the boat had been found. The autopsy revealed both alcohol and THC in his system. The official cause of death? Accidental drowning. No signs of foul play. But something wasn't adding up. People started questioning why the search had been called off so quickly. Why had Spencer's phone records never been released? Why hadn't the fingerprints on the sailboat been analyzed? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all, why was Sophia's body still missing? In July 2018, the Facebook group Finding Sophia McKenna was created. Hundreds of people joined, trying to piece together the mystery surrounding Sophia's disappearance. As theories spread, one name kept coming up: Austin. Many suspected that he had something to do with it, that he had killed Spencer, taken Sophia somewhere else, and murdered her too. But even Sophia's mother never believed he was responsible, despite his history of aggression. The most plausible theory? The boat had come untied in the middle of the night and started drifting away. Spencer, likely realizing what was happening, may have jumped into the water to retrieve it, only to be caught in the currents and drown. But what happened next? One chilling possibility is that Sophia was left alone at the lighthouse, screaming for help. Some believe a lone boater may have stopped to assist her, but instead kidnapped her. Whether to kill her or traffic her, the theory remains one of the most haunting. However, skeptics argue that the chances of another boat arriving so late at night are slim to none. Another theory, fueled by TikTok and Facebook speculation, is that Spencer and Sophia got into an argument at the lighthouse, and things escalated. But there's no real evidence to support this. If anything, their final Snapchat video suggests they were having fun. If something did happen, it must have been sudden. To this day, Sophia McKenna has never been found. Investigators, along with Sophia's family, now fully believe that Spencer drowned while trying to retrieve the boat, and that Sophia, possibly fearing legal trouble for trespassing, hesitated to call 911. But beyond that, it's impossible to say. Did she drown while trying to rescue her friend? Did she fall into the water by accident? Or did something else happen while she was alone at that Eerie lighthouse? The case remains unsolved. 26-year-old Prisma Reyes went missing from her hometown of Mesquite, Texas, on April 17, 2019. And this surveillance footage is the last known trace of her whereabouts. That Wednesday started like any other. Prisma dropped off her 6-year-old son with the babysitter before heading to work. Everything seemed normal. She took her scheduled lunch break around noon, but after that, she never returned. Later that evening, at 7:30 p.m., Prisma was supposed to pick up her son, something she did every single day without fail, but this time, she never showed. Concerned, the babysitter tried calling Prisma. No answer. As time passed, panic set in. The sitter reached out to Prisma's family, who then spent the next 2 hours desperately trying to contact her. Call after call went straight to voicemail. By 9:30 p.m., with still no sign of Prisma, her family reported her missing. The police immediately launched an investigation. The first major discovery? Prisma's abandoned 2017 Jeep Wrangler, found the next morning in the 3,500 block of Roseland Avenue in Dallas. But there was no sign of Prisma, no indication of where she had gone, just an empty vehicle. With little else to go on, investigators pieced together a timeline of Prisma's final known movements using debit card records and security footage. During her lunch break, she had gone to Ibar Tex-Mex restaurant on North Haskell Avenue. She wasn't alone. Footage showed her having lunch with a man, later identified as her ex-boyfriend. After about an hour, he left. But Prisma? She stayed. She continued drinking and drinking until the bartender eventually had to cut her off. At some point, the restaurant staff asked her to leave. Witnesses described her as causing a verbal disturbance, though it's unclear if she was intoxicated or simply upset. Then, things got even stranger. Shortly after leaving the restaurant, Prisma was involved in a road rage incident. Details remain vague, but according to reports, she got into a heated shouting match with another driver. The argument escalated enough for someone to call the police. But by the time officers arrived, Prisma was gone. No threats were made, no one was harmed, and police ultimately determined that this incident was unrelated to her disappearance. But that wasn't the last time she was seen. Surveillance footage from the Olympus at Ross Apartments, located near where her car was abandoned, captured Prisma entering the complex's parking garage. She was on the phone, pacing back and forth, swaying slightly, as if she were intoxicated, or maybe nervous. She then got into the elevator with a resident, who later told police she had been crying. The apartment complex was significant for another reason. Her ex-boyfriend, the one she had lunch with earlier that day, lived there. But when police questioned him, he claimed he wasn't home at the time. Investigators also tracked down the person Prisma had been speaking to on the phone in the surveillance footage. After questioning both the ex-boyfriend and the unknown caller, police found no evidence linking either of them to her disappearance. And then, the trail went cold. Despite multiple leads, extensive footage, and a well-documented timeline, Prisma Reyes has never been found. To this day, what happened to her remains a complete mystery. 21-year-old Tepiwa Matui has now been missing for 10 long months, a mystery that began on what should have been an ordinary night out with friends in Swansea, Wales, back in February 2019. Known as Toppy among his friends, he had told his parents that he was heading to a popular local club with a group of friends on the evening of February 6th. Nights out like this weren't unusual for him, but his parents, like any worried family, asked him to stay in touch. He had always honored this request. which is why when more than 24 hours passed with no call, no message, and no sign of their son, dread set in. This wasn't like Toppy. He always checked in. He always came home, even if it was later the next day. But this time, silence. Overwhelmed with fear, his family reported him missing, and a search was launched immediately. It wasn't long before police gathered crucial CCTV footage, a compilation that helped track some of Toppy's last known movements that night. The first clip, time-stamped at 4:50 a.m., shows Toppy leaving the club with another man who is wearing a blue shirt. The two head to a McDonald's on Oxford Street, near Castle Gardens. Inside, they linger for a while, visibly intoxicated. The footage captures them chatting, laughing, but eventually, something shifts. Toppy leaves, alone. At 5 a.m., cameras capture him making his way towards Caesar Street. Then, at 5:10 a.m., he enters the St. David's Student Accommodation Office on New Cut Road. But just as quickly as he arrives, he exits again. He doesn't stay. He doesn't wait. Instead, he turns and walks off in the opposite direction. The next sighting comes 20 minutes later. A camera records him stumbling along Sainsbury and Quay Parade. His steps are unsteady, his movement sluggish, and then, finally, at exactly 7:06 a.m., the last known footage of Toppy is captured. He is seen walking behind the Swansea Yacht Club, and then, nothing. That was the last confirmed sighting of Tepiwa Matui. Despite the footage providing a timeline of his final hours, it brought investigators no closer to solving the case. In March 2019, when the videos were released to the public, police issued a statement. "We're releasing this footage in case it helps jog anyone's memory from that morning. If anyone has information, no matter how small it may seem, please come forward." But no answers came. Toppy's family has never stopped searching, never stopped believing that someone, somewhere, knows something. They insist that he would never run away, never just disappear without a word. As for the man in the blue shirt, police identified him, questioned him, but he had nothing significant to add. He was not considered a suspect, so the question remains, what happened to Tepiwa Matui? 41-year-old John Johnson was a relatively well-known Icelandic poker player who mysteriously disappeared in February of 2019. In the first week of February, John and his fiancée set out on a trip to Dublin so that he could participate in a highly anticipated poker tournament. His fiancée, Chris, was held up at the airport due to passport issues, but John continued the trip without her, arriving at his hotel in Whitehall earlier than expected. On Friday night, after settling in, John played a game and lost over $4,000. While a substantial loss, his family later explained to a popular Irish true crime TV series that, for John, this was just part of his career. A loss like this wouldn't have driven him to make any rash decisions or to suddenly run away. It's also important to note that after losing the money, John remained calm. He returned to his hotel room, had a light dinner, and went to bed early. Nothing about his behavior suggested he was planning to disappear. On Saturday morning, his fiancée finally arrived at the hotel and woke him up. They spoke briefly, and according to her, everything seemed completely normal. They planned out the rest of their day before she started unpacking. Then, just a few moments later, at exactly 11 a.m., John walked out of the room without a word. He didn't tell Chris where he was going. He didn't take his passport, phone, or wallet. He simply left. At first, his fiancée wasn't too alarmed. But as the hours passed with no word from him, despite the looming poker tournament, which was the entire reason for their trip, concern quickly turned to panic. By that evening, she reported him missing. On February 9, 2019, John Johnson was officially declared a missing person, and to this day, there has been no sign of him. Shortly after his disappearance, police released CCTV footage that captured John's last known movements. The video, later aired on the TV series Crime Call, shows him leaving his hotel room at 11 a.m. He exits the hotel, turns right, and walks down a busy city street. Another camera, further down, picks him up again. This time it appears that he is heading toward the Highfield healthcare facility at the end of the block, but then he vanishes. There is no footage of him entering the facility, no record of him signing in, no witness reports of anyone matching his description stepping inside. In the videos, John doesn't seem agitated. He isn't angry. fearful, or behaving in a way that would indicate distress. He looks normal. And then, as suddenly as he walked out of his hotel, he was gone. To this day, John Johnson has not been found. Authorities maintain that there is no evidence of foul play, but his family, they aren't so sure. With no leads, no answers, and no trace of John, one question still lingers. What really happened to John Johnson? While police have only recently released still images related to this case, these images were obtained from surveillance footage that holds the last known moments of 23-year-old Mackenzie Luke. On June 17, 2019, Mackenzie, a California native, landed at Salt Lake City International Airport, Utah. She had just arrived to begin a new semester of college, but she would never make it to class. Her parents expected to hear from her after she landed. A simple text, a call, anything. But the hours passed, then days, and there was nothing. She missed every phone call. She failed to show up for a final exam. This wasn't like her. Something was wrong. Worried sick, her family reported her missing. As investigators began retracing her steps, they uncovered crucial CCTV footage. The images, while limited, tell an eerie story. Mackenzie was seen at the airport, but something about her movements seemed off. Witnesses and footage suggest that she wandered the terminal aimlessly, as if she were waiting for someone. And then, she left. Investigators discovered that she had taken a lift from the airport to Hatch Park. Her driver was questioned immediately, even considered a possible suspect, but his alibi was airtight. He explained that Mackenzie had been in good spirits. She even casually mentioned that she was meeting someone at the park, that someone was 31-year-old Ayula Ajayi, a man she had been communicating with online. Cell phone data confirmed what investigators feared. Both Mackenzie and Ajayi had been at Hatch Park at the exact same time. A search warrant was issued, and when authorities arrived at Ajayi's property in July 2019, they found the horrifying truth. In his backyard, they uncovered Mackenzie's charred remains, her belongings burned beyond recognition. As police pieced together the case, an anonymous contractor came forward with a chilling revelation. Months before Mackenzie's disappearance, Ajayi had requested a soundproof room be built in his home. The details were disturbing: concrete walls, hooks mounted on them, and a fingerprint lock. The room was never built, but the intent was clear. Ajayi was arrested as the sole suspect in Mackenzie's murder. The case is still ongoing, with little to no recent updates. The last confirmed person to see Mackenzie alive, her Lyft driver, the man who unknowingly dropped her off to meet a monster. This surveillance footage may seem mundane to the average viewer, but for the family of 23-year-old Kiara Henry, it's heartbreaking. The video, captured on July 21, 2019, at 2 p.m., shows Kiara at the Hertz rental car facility in Maui. She's standing at the counter, patiently speaking with an employee. At one point, she places some of her belongings under a table before walking out of the store, and that was the last time she was ever seen. When Kiara's family didn't hear from her for several days, they immediately knew something was wrong. This wasn't like her, especially on a trip so far from home. The silence only deepened their fears. It was later discovered that Kiara had rented the car for just one day. Her plan? To visit a local state park. Her family revealed that she had toured the park the day before and absolutely loved it, so much so that she wanted to return as soon as possible. It seemed like a normal trip, nothing out of the ordinary. In fact, her actions that day suggested that she fully intended to come back home. She had attempted to make a hotel reservation that same day. She had also booked a flight home to San Diego, scheduled for July 29th. Everything pointed to this being a short, planned trip, but something went terribly wrong. Days later, rangers at the state park noticed an abandoned car in a parking area. It had been sitting there for too long, untouched. When authorities investigated, they confirmed it was Kiara's rental. The vehicle's data history showed that it had been driven straight from the rental lot to the park, with no unusual detours. Inside the car, investigators found her luggage, her ID, and her credit card, all left behind. A small backpack was also found inside, but something was missing. Her phone, her car keys, and a few personal items were gone. It was as if she had taken them with her, expecting to return. but she never did. Her phone has not been used since the morning she disappeared. Her bank accounts remain untouched. There has been no activity, no clues, nothing. As of now, Kiara's family considers this surveillance footage the last confirmed sighting of their loved one. Months have passed, and still, there are no answers. Desperate for closure, Kiara's family has even made plans to temporarily relocate to Maui, determined to continue the search themselves. But the question remains, what happened to Kiara Henry?